Hello, everybody. We are back again. What are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about amnesia of the timelines and closure of timelines as we move into this ascension of collective consciousness. I apologize in advance if we hear children or any background noises because they exist in this environment. All right, cool. All right, so I was watching a video recently about, I believe it was on Flat Earth Universe, where they mentioned one of the guest speakers or one of the people who were talking in that group discussion. They were talking about how, as I guess, in alternate realities, how right now there's timelines opening and closing, I guess. I mean, so here, let me put the context here. So there's a present moment always, right? But in this present moment, there, in the past and in the future, in the past and in the future, there are certain paths or different possibilities or multiple infinite possibilities of what could potentially be in the past that could lead to this present moment, and then the same for the future. It's multiple different, probably endless possibilities of which route, I guess, this entity could take or this consciousness could take.
So technically, there's like not what most people think, where there's just the past, present, future, only one timeline. There's actually many layers, potential timelines that all can coexist and can be changing, even the one that you think that you only have at any given moment.
Yeah, and then your present moment can align with vibrationally, usually is how you align with your frequency aligns to whichever timeline you want to have played out. If it's a future one, even in the past though, you can align to a certain timeline technically. Anyway, so on this video, any more questions?
So, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean like you can even change your past or your future, or like where you're going, and even the present moment?
I think just like how you can change your future or align to a certain possibility of the future, the same thing can happen in the past. Because time is obviously not a real thing. It's sort of more circular, I guess you could say, or there's just space, really, when you think about it, I guess, right? And the only thing that really truly exists is the present moment. But in this present moment, there's multiple possibilities, infinite maybe even possibilities that are existing all at once, if that makes sense. But it makes sense because that's how it is in this, I guess, physical reality. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that, and I don't think we're necessarily supposed to like be able to, but this is how the universe works, right?
That's pretty interesting. So, is there any kind of way that people can be changing their reality, like maybe even aligning with how they are as now, and like things might start to like disappear in the past or disappear in the future, like that kind of information?
You're asking me very complicated questions I don't know the answer to. But I do know from listening to certain teachers. Abraham Hicks is a good one. It's a good channel to listen to if you're interested in this kind of stuff. Luna Ash. Who else? Jessica Delmar. And there's lots of other channels that talked about aligning to the frequency of the. And most people obviously want to live good lives where they're happy and actually have abundance and whatnot. And the best way to do that is just align to your highest frequency. Basically, be in that space that makes you the most happy, or just be happy about life and enjoy, your existence. And that puts you in alignment with the things that line up with that feeling that you want to experience. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Have you had any experience with like anything that might have happened in your timeline that's been altered or changed, or you might have like lost?
All right, let's stop beating around the bush here. All right, so I just wanted to. So there was a video that I watched recently, and I think, like I said, it was on Flat Earth Universe, where they were talking about how your past timelines can potentially close and you are on a different timeline in your past. And they use examples of, like, I think the woman who was speaking was talking about how recently, I think several of them might mention this, I don't know, but recently, like, you can be having a conversation with someone like you grew up with, like your parent or your siblings or whatever, and they'll be talking about something that you have completely forgotten about. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about, like a specific event or events that may have happened that it's completely lost in your conscious consciousness. Like you have no recollection of it. And I think they were saying that as possibly an example of, or more than likely an example of how the past, how your frequency aligns or changes and aligns with your current conscious frequency. but doing that closes up certain historical events that happened in the past, that one aspect of yourself might have experienced or is experiencing, but you're closed off that frequency, I guess, maybe, of that timeline. So in your current reality, it doesn't exist anymore.
That makes sense. I mean, I can definitely see how that could work. I mean, as you are adapting and changing and becoming who you are, and you're aligning with this higher frequency of doing certain things, then yeah, especially I could see in your.
I think it goes any way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a higher frequency, just whatever your frequency.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Or your consciousness
your
is a
conscious state that you have. Yeah, I can see that. Your conscious state, regardless of where you're going, you start to align more, and like memories and different things in the past, present, and future all start to like become more cohesive.
Align to who you are in the present moment, basically. And so saying it that way, I think you can see how it can change constantly depending on what your energy frequency is or what you're aligning to, your conscious is aligning to, I guess, right?
And even the people that you surround yourself with, because they have energy and consciousness too, and it can affect. That's why they say, like, be careful who you keep around you, because they can be influencing what happens with also your timeline.
So so when I listened to that video, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and it makes sense too. Lots of the people, especially people that channel future entities or whatever consciousnesses, they'll talk a lot about how basically in this way you create your reality basically without knowing it, sometimes by you're aligning to a certain frequency or wavelength or frequency of your own consciousness and of consciousness in general, but by aligning to that, you are lining up with a potential, basically. But anyway, so I wanted to, and hopefully any of this makes sense to whoever's listening to this, but or not. But if you makes sense to you and you get some use out of it, then good. If you don't, then pass it along. Pass by. Go to the next section, right, of the supermarket. All right, so what was interesting about this discussion that I had listened to previously was that I actually kind of had a potential experience like this. I was recently going through some like medical records of mine, and I don't recall. Like, there are certain things in my childhood I remember, some things I guess apparently don't. But I know, so I was going through some specific things, and it looked like, what was interesting too is there was a certain time period around when I was like 10 to 11, it looked like. There were a series of like ear infections and like, was it ear infections? And I think it was mainly like ear infection, but like a repeated ear infections, like every 3 to 6 months for like a period of like a year, maybe even a year and up to a year and a half. And there was even like some blood work that was done at some point. I was not someone who went to the doctor a lot. Like, spoiler alert, my mother's a doctor. But we didn't go to like, we weren't like the family that like went to the doctor every year for yearly checkups and whatever. No. And even with my mother being a doctor, we didn't like, let's have our yearly checkup or whatever. But with that being said, so I'm looking through recently these medical histories. I was looking at, I think, my records we're going through stuff to throw away, basically. I was like, my mother at some point gave me my, medical history or whatever. But anyway, so I'm looking through it, and I have no recollection of any of this. I know it was a while ago. I was 10, 11, but there's a lot of things I remember from being a child. From even before then up to like 2 years old, maybe. There's events that I remember throughout my childhood. I have a pretty good understanding of how I lived my childhood. But I'm looking at these medical records. I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. I'm like, is this even me? Like, I don't remember this at all. I don't remember being sick. I don't remember having ear infections during this time period. that apparently recurred for, at least it looked like on the records, of a period of a year and a half. Like, I don't remember any of this. Like, some of it I remember, like the last part, I think there was a record in there where I had like a cut on my finger from like a rooster, a rooster cut on my finger. I think I got attacked by a rooster. But I remember that. I remember this incident, but I don't remember any of those other things, like, at all. And so I thought that was interesting. It reminded me of the video that I watched about historical amnesia as timelines close. And you align to certain frequencies, and as you align to certain frequencies, certain histories that, you know, other people might remember and may even be documented somewhere, your present self, because it's not aligned to that anymore,
Doesn't recognize
it doesn't recognize, because it didn't happen technically to this present person that I am right now. It was some other me. Yeah, something along those lines.
That's pretty interesting. That's definitely something people should like kind of think about. If you can understand this video, definitely just take a moment to like kind of think about like your own timelines.
Well, it just at least like, if you can, yeah, basically like what you said, if you can understand what we're talking about, if you get sort of what we're saying, then it might make sense to you. If you look maybe in your past, but also think about it as a future thing too. Literally what you put yourself in, the energy you put yourself in, that is where the direction that you will head.
Yes.
Sort of. But anyway, that's I think that was mainly what I wanted to talk about in this video. If you want to add anything.
Yeah. It's definitely pretty interesting. It's like whoever you are now is definitely who you align with. So it's always think about that when you're trying to make your decisions and what you're going to be doing with your life, because you constantly choose that.
Well, no, and then, the thing, I think the main thing too to think about is align to what makes you happy. Like, whatever makes you happy and like makes you glow, whatever makes your insides glow, right? That's what you need to be, even if you're just in that space at first, but it'll bring you to the reality that you want to be in, basically. But yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good place to wrap it up. That was a great discussion. Anything else?
That is all.